Hello and welcome. It is I, Iron Raven, back yet again with another new topic of discussion. Now, this week I figured I'd go ahead and talk about Jurassic Park slash Jurassic World, however you consider the franchise now. So I'm just going to be perfectly honest with all this stuff and where I stand with the franchise and just how I feel, because I just feel like it's a fun little thing to talk about and just give my general take on the matter. Now, for me, I honestly did not really watch the entirety of the original Jurassic Park up until fairly recently, probably within a year or so, to be perfectly honest with you. It's one of those movies that just, even though for a channel like this and for us nerds, geeks, whatever have you, the general pop culture stuff from the superheroes to the James Bonds to the whatever to the Jurassic Parks, it just fell into like that crack, like that category of films that you kind of knew about growing up. You've seen all the images, you've seen people talk about, you've just seen all of that stuff to where you felt like you've already have seen it and you just don't get around to watching it until like years down the line or maybe even never. And for me, that was just kind of one of those movies. It just kind of fell into that area where I just felt like I've just kind of known the film my whole life without actually having seen it. So therefore, we are where we are now. But it's not to say that I don't appreciate the film. Obviously, it came out in 93, and not only did it like sort of redefine the summer blockbuster, but it was just a huge step in special effects with the animatronics of the dinosaurs. That was the whole thing in just that trailer that they had back in the day. You have those shots, those the water and everything, and the dinosaur coming along, and it was just things like that that just really helped defy like this franchise and coming out the gate strong. And then once you see those dinosaurs and knowing it's an animatronic, knowing that you can actually look at it and just be like, if I didn't know any better, that's a real T-Rex. Just a huge defining moment for film and for franchises like that. So, and for me, I think it's a fine film. I'm not in love with it as much as most people, but I do respect and appreciate that film for what it is. I mean, you can't deny what that film did. But for me, the first one I had ever really watched was Jurassic Park 3, which, that is not a good place to start at all. I remember just when it first like hit cable, I just turned it on. I was just like, oh, I'm watching it, whatever. And it's, you look on it now, it's just like a generic brand, just like almost like dinosaur slasher almost. I mean, it's PG-13, but it doesn't have much going for it other than they're all stuck out in the woods and just having to deal with the dinosaurs and just live. There's not much to it whatsoever. And so you arrive to now where we have this new film, the sixth entry in the franchise, Jurassic World Dominion, where of course we're coming back and we're bringing the old characters again. And just, you got Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum. I mean, I gotta be real about it. I just don't feel like this franchise holds its own. Because, again, I feel like it's the original film for what it was. That was just a staple. That was a landmark film. And I feel like that everything since then has proven that this franchise just, it holds no water. You just have to look at that original film in isolation and just realize that film worked all on its own. And everything to come past that simply just, it seems that they try too hard to recapture that, because like I said, it was just a very organic occurrence. It was lightning in a bottle. It was a defining moment for films to where you can't really recapture that, especially as you go forward. You get to the newer films where all the dinosaurs are like all CG. You have very like little to like none practical effects when it comes to that, and it just, you lose the heart of what made Jurassic Park work back in the day, what made that film such a success. I mean, let's face it, did anyone really care for The Lost World? That film got a lot of flack, and even saying that the Jeff Goldblum character almost didn't even feel like the same character. I know there's some people that can sit there and say, oh yeah, it was just a fun movie. And it's like, yeah, I mean, and I'm usually pretty forgiving when it comes to a lot of films. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If it comes to something I like, if I feel like they executed certain beats properly, then I can forgive a lot. But for me, when it comes to this franchise, and like I said, just more so from the outside looking in, if anything, because I only have the viewing experience of mostly the original, the third Jurassic World and stuff. It just seems like that this franchise it really hasn't been justified since the original. And we can say that about a lot of things, sure. But I feel like that you kind of have to look at each franchise in isolation. The genre that it is, the subject matter, the general execution of the films themselves, whatever have you. There are a lot of elements to break down as to like what's justifying the sequel, or what does better than this, and blah blah blah. But to me, again, it just seems like that Jurassic Park works best as that original film because they've tried so hard to recapture that magic. Even back then, you had Steven Spielberg involved in just with The Lost World, and even that didn't go over so well. You had Jurassic Park 3. People pretty much hated that film. It had next to no magic that the originals had. You just had a few dinosaurs going around eating some people, and that was it. I mean, and even the ending of that is horrible. And then years down the line, of course, you get Jurassic World, and that was meant to be the big return to form. And of course, it was a huge hit. I saw it in the theater myself. But even for me, like I said, I'm very forgiving. And even on just that general fun factor level as like a blockbuster film, it was fine. But even then, for some reason, it just did not click with me. Just something about it. It just felt like a more hollow version of the original. Like once I like break it down, like it just... I don't know. It didn't have enough there. It didn't have enough meat on the bone. It felt like it was just honestly trying to recapture that original, but did so in a more mediocre fashion. And then you follow that up with Fallen Kingdom, and I didn't even bother seeing that one because all I've heard, and from what I've seen, especially where it ended, it's like, what the hell were you thinking? And this one just seemed like a very lazy attempt to follow up the previous film, a little similar to The Lost World, except this one just seems like it's worse in a lot of ways. And I'm like, and with the girl at the end and the clone stuff that they're talking, I was like, when I heard about that, I'm like, are you kidding me? What are you going? Like, where are you going with this? And then you arrive to now, of course, all the OGs are back. You have them mixed in with the new guys, and it's just, yeah, fan service, it's all about the balance. It's about giving the fans what they want, but at the same time, can you actually give a good organic story to wrap around that? So you can do fan service, but you still have to have some substance within it. For instance, Spider-Man No Way Home, a recent film that you could say is very much fan service, but it's fan service done right. My expectations were like right there in the middle. I'm just like, I don't know what to expect. I'm hoping it'll turn out well. It could be a clusterfuck. But hey, it actually wound up having a lot more heart than even I expected, and actually helped defy Tom Holland's Spider-Man a lot more. So to me, that's fan service done right. Here, honestly, I doubt much is going to change because, again, since the original, we've had a mediocre sequel in Lost World. We had a terrible sequel in Jurassic Park 3. To me, you have an overrated sequel in Jurassic World, and you have another really crappy sequel in Fallen Kingdom. And so we arrive to now where it's just like, it just seems like it's just going to be more of the same. And so what's going to be left there, honestly? Like, are people like really hyping themselves up? Because again, it's like Ghostbusters. Jurassic Park is just huge for a lot of people. But with these sequels, I'm like, it seems like there hasn't been enough substance there to justify them to where, again, I can understand if you love Jurassic World to some degree, but even for me, I'm like, it just rings more hollow to me. It's fine for what it was, but honestly, when you get like 1 out of 4 sequels done right, I mean, I'm just like, well, that doesn't really justify enough. And even if this one winds up being decent, I'm like, well, the path that we took to get here, was it really worth it? Like, did we really get enough to really justify the franchise as a whole, if you see what I'm saying here? And to me, I just felt like all the sequels did nothing but kind of diminish the original to some extent. And there could have been room for really great sequels. Even Jurassic World, I felt like was somewhat of a missed opportunity. I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like you could have done a lot more with that. And here, where is it going to end? I have a feeling it's probably just going to end, well, humans and dinosaurs are just going to learn to coexist, and it's just going to be all, just the new world. It's a new age, basically. I mean, what note do we think we're going to end on with this? And like I said, I just feel like the lead up to this, even if it winds up being good, it's like, okay, we have those good callback moments here and there. Is there going to be enough there to truly look back on the franchise, and you'll want to go back and marathon them and just been like, watch everything connect and then, continue on and just, I don't think so. I have a feeling it's not going to have that sense of that satisfaction and justification. So I just feel like for me, it's a little bit strange that I feel like fans keep hyping themselves up for this franchise while I felt like you've really been handed nothing but mediocrity since the original. Like I say, you've had some shining points here and there, but as a whole, like I said, with most of the sequels, it's like in the last one where especially they seemed like they didn't really give a damn. I mean, was it really worth it? I don't know. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I mean, you can enjoy it all you want to. I may watch the new one just for a fun time. We'll see. But for me, and just giving my general take on the franchise, I just felt like, well, that original is one of those specific examples of showing how it really truly works on its own. It was lightning in a bottle, and it shines brightest when you just leave that in isolation. Because again, for me, a lot of other, I enjoy various mediocre franchises and stuff like that. I mean, I enjoy the Fast and the Furious franchise, for God's sake. But to me, that was like a slow evolution, and they've actually done a good job at like kind of elevating themselves. I mean, I feel like we've gone, a couple movies too far at this point, but it was kind of like an evolution, and it started off not being some, masterpiece of a film. No, I mean, they obviously had ground to where they could work themselves up being a decent franchise or something like that, or you could pick just about any horror franchise, but we know what to expect when it comes to a lot of that stuff. But Jurassic Park, where it started off with such great integrity, is my point, and it had, like I said, that huge step of effects and just amazement when you're viewing it. And I felt like there's been just next to nothing since then. Even arguably the best sequel, Jurassic World, to me felt rather heartless to an extent. You know what? It just felt like a more just soulless version of the original. And like I say, you follow that up with Fallen Kingdom. I'm like, well, where's the hype now? I just don't feel like I could get hyped for this next one at all. But hey, that's just me. But I'll just end it right there. I've babbled on long enough. I mean, but hey, let me know what your take is if you want to. I mean, do you enjoy the franchise as a whole? Do you feel like that they're justified? I mean, again, that's just my point. I'm not crapping on you. I'm not trying to hate, but I'm just giving my general perspective as to how I feel like just the franchise as a whole hasn't really justified itself. Just because I feel like most of the sequels just have been rather mediocre. But that's just me. Anyway, I'll end it right there. Thank you very much for watching. I am Iron Raven, and I am out.